Yeah, there are those in the purely intellectual circles, Duane, who may consider the works of the new man as as the works of someone on the, will I say, lunatic fringe. So, what can be done to tap into the intellectual circles of society of what you're presenting? Because some of them may feel, you know, in their conceited uh, imagination that they are well above what is being presented. But we need these people of what you call superior intellect or anything like that to be acquainted with this, with the new presentation, with what the wonderful worldwide educators are presenting. So, Duane, any ideas we can reach this? Let me call it the lunatic fringe of society, because the intellectuals, I don't think there are any intellectuals. Yeah, Duane?
Okay, so they're going to find that very interesting how you describe them, Charles, but we already know that. Actually, we're doing it already. It's all there. There's so much information out there, and especially as I write the groups and other things and the books, etc. This is for the intellects. It really is. The words and phrases. This is in your intellectual stuff. This is literalized stuff, and this is what people need. And so, as an example, as you read a book or a story, you are, I see why a lot of people like to read, and it is fun simply because as you're reading, you are creating your own fantasy about how you see this. Okay, so you're fantasizing, you're using your imagination, let's say, and you're fantasizing how you see this adventure from the words. But you need that literal part, don't you? That's for your intellect, because this is how the mind is set up. The mind and the bodies basically are just receivers and storehouse. That's all they are. Okay, it's the real you that initiates any decision. But the mind itself can run on routines and patterns. Of course it can. It can run by itself automatically because it's got its routine set up. But what we have is really all for the intellect. We've come through the ideas of this particular writing is spiritual, or this is religion, or this is politics. It's all the same words. It's all the same thing. See, all these situations or ideas that, the complexity of this world, look at the cowboy and Indian days, how the Indians were. They lived a very simple life and they focused on nature. Well, in the last couple hundred years, all of a sudden, we have the modern world with all this complexity and the computers and just all this stuff, this technology, etc. And it becomes more confusing, doesn't it? More and more and more confusing because of all the little things. But it's all set up for the intellect. And so these ideas that we have, it's like, oh, if you read the Bible, that's religious, that's spiritual or whatever. Or if you're on a path or, some teaching, some yoga or Buddha path or meditation, well, that's spiritual and that's of a particular. It's all the same words. This is all intellectual stuff. It's really what it is. That's the first step. There's no difference between one set of words that say this and that, and the next set of words that say this and that, you see? And so as you really start to take the time to focus on the isness of life, all right, it's kind of like you're on the mountaintop and you're seeing all of creation, because you need creation. You need creation to see this isness better, but you get the idea. But everything here, see, again, you're thinking in your mind that, just like you, thinking, oh, well, this is educational, intellectual stuff. Well, I'm using the same words. I'm just rearranging them and making a reference of a particular. How you've arranged the words, or they've arranged the words in the system that you have and you're dealing with and you teach and whatever, they're referring to a particular, aren't they? They're referring to that educational idea, all right, mainly on the earth, and people supposedly doing better and getting a better job. But really, it's all part of the isness, and that's the intellectual part that's already here, Charles. It's all over the place. And so, again, what I'm doing is no difference, but the reference is different. That's the reality. This is where people will read what I've written, and they'll say, well, this is just like other stuff I've read. But they don't see the reality of it that supports it. And that's the real guides, as, and their real connection with the isness. Now, there's no one else in the world, or even in creation, basically, that has that. That becomes the difference. It is that real support, okay, that provides it to where the individual can become more aware. Yes, they can read the words. Anybody can take my words and go and sell them out there and give them to people, and etc. And it just becomes the intent of the individual accordingly if the guides will support them or not. For the most part, they won't, because of what has taken place. So it's kind of like a networking the real guides are looking for those people that step up and have the courage to support others that support them. That's the idea, not to where you just get the writings and you feel good about yourself and you go off somewhere. Well, fine, you can do that. You can do whatever you want. But the real risk takers step up and support this reality and learning to see how the is sees. But yet we have all this intellectual stuff. It's everywhere. It's I've written so much stuff, and others, and Kelsey and Kevin, and all the people doing this. We're so saturated out there. It's really kind of funny. But this is where, and is there a correlation to it? In other words, step 1, step 2, step 3. Kind of, but not really. I didn't really want to do that because people get used to that routine. It's more like an Easter egg hunt, okay? Go find the eggs that your parents hid, run around and find them and discover. And this is the whole thing. There's so much information out there, intellectual, literalized information that references the isness, and learn to put it together and have fun with that. And learn to be creative with it so you become more aware and you start to see what is being presented, you see, and from your real side experiences too, in relation, and all these things, because the isness is endless. You can never consider it. So how do you see it? But when you do consider it, are you limiting yourself to that consideration, only thinking, oh, I know what this is? Many people think, oh, it's like a God. No, this is what's so cool. It is not an authority. It's like the air you breathe. Is the air you breathe an authority? No. Gods are authorities. That's the whole idea of the God idea, to be an authority. Something that people can't see or really can't touch or reach, but you're to believe in it, okay? And so you're always chasing something lifetime to lifetime. Well, now you know that life is an isness. You don't have to chase anything. It's an endless isness to recognize here and now. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to project bodies. You don't have to do any of that. It's so cool. And real freedom, guess what? It's better than real freedom. Real freedom is an idea for the intellect, but it's better than that. You see, you can say, well, I have freedom to breathe. Well, you don't even have to think that, do you? You're breathing and you're fine. See, it's even better than that. So to recognize this. So yes, Charles, we have everything and more for the intellects out there. It's just they have to learn to see it, and they don't need the categories of discrimination anymore: political, spiritual, religious, educational, scientific, and all this. They're just words. I've taken the same words everybody else uses. I learned them here, and I'm just rearranging them. It's the reference that's important, you see? So it's all there, isn't it? Go ahead.
Yeah, Duane, actually, what you say is quite evident. Everything is out there, but some people will think that it is some type of group like that. I don't want to join this group or this spiritual or whatever they may think in their minds. Yeah, so it is incumbent on us the new students to find ways, creative ways to bring these teachings into the mainstream of society, of the intellectual world, especially because there are many people out there who think that the literalized education is all they need. Yeah, and without understanding that is very deficient. And in fact, the ease, working from the ground of the isness of life, one is better able to see the whole of life, as you rightly said. It's like having a view from the mountaintop. And these intellectuals, they don't know that if they could just pay attention to what the worldwide educators are presenting, it may even help them to come out with more literalized theories about life. They don't know this. And so I think it's a gradual process, and we'll get there. More and more people of a literal nature, of an intellectualized nature, they will come to know about the works of the new man. And if they have the patience to read, then they can realize that it forms a new foundation of thought that can help not only this world, but well beyond. Yeah, then we come to what Seneca, the Roman orator, says. He says, life is very anxious for those who forget the past, neglect the present, and fear for the future. Well, I want to ask what we should do in the NuNowness, Duane. Seal off the past, less for the future, and maybe insulate ourselves in the present. What are we supposed to do, Duane?
Well, again, this is a little bit humorous, Charles, and that is the idea of what are we supposed to do? You ask the question, and it's not about that. You just simply decide what you want to do. It's not about what you're supposed to do. You know, we've been brought up in this world, and we have been taught to look to authorities. Our parents start off, they are actually authorities, is what they are. We look to them. They tell us what to do, and they tell us basically what we're supposed to do, right? And then as we go along, we go to school, we have teachers, and then as we grow up, we have to deal with society, and today it's the business world and government and all the different types of documents and forms and all this other stuff. Again, we're told what to do. So we've come along to this point, and again, like the Africans and almost everybody, it's like, well, what are we supposed to do? And I get that. I understand that, but it's not about that. And so again, and this is where when you come in and you creatively ask these questions, that it activates me to provide a better definition for people. Do you see how that works? And so, yes, people can ask that question, what are we supposed to do? But guess what? It has nothing to do with that. You know, like the sun shining, you know, is the sun asking itself, gee, what am I supposed to do? All right, it's already doing it. It's already shining. It's doing its part. And it's not that we'll just be like the sun, like Duane talks about, shine like the sun. Well, that's part of it, okay? But there's a whole lot more. So the past, the present, and the future, these ideas that we look to, well, they're necessary also because they're part of creation. And so again, each individual can arrange those ideas any way they want. You see, this is where everybody can have everything they want in life. And now you more so understand that, yes, it's not about what are we supposed to do. It's about you decide what you want to do. For me, I have learned this lifetime again and again. We've all been through this process so many times. And now I've finally figured it out to where, I just want to stand real with the is, because it's everything. And the is all about real survival. It's not about chasing thrills, being happy, going through drama, boy meets girl and all these things. We do these things. That's in the personal self. But the reality of our real awareness is recognizing that, because again, through lifetimes, we've groped to try and find ourselves. And the idea with these paths we've been through, you're really just dealing with the personal self still, because you're still in creation. You're not getting, even though they call it self-realization and then God realization, guess what? It's still the personal self. Corporation that I went through. And they got these grandiose ideas, and they're just created ideas, and it's just still with their personal self. Their personal self still comes first. Yeah, because they live in a business world, and they're doing good, personally. Okay, so fine, whatever. So the picture is much bigger, and yes, you got to figure it out. So I've given the hint. I like the idea of, learn to see and recognize what the sun is demonstrating. This is an objective view for you to start to recognize your real awareness. I really like that. There's many ways to do that. There's endless ways. You decide, you pick it. Okay, so I'm just giving a reference. But this is a really cool one. I really like it, and it's there. It's right here to start you off. And so that's the best part. And it's not that anybody's supposed to do anything. You decide to get up in the morning. It's like, do you ask yourself, am I supposed to get up? No, you don't ask yourself that, but maybe some people do. Am I supposed to go to bed now? It's 9 o'clock, etc. Well, whatever, you decide. If you decide to ask the question, you've decided to ask the question. You see, this is where it becomes a little bit funny, but you don't have to anymore. Look at the birds out there. They don't do that. Am I supposed to fly now? See? It's all the same thing. It's really rather humorous. You see, we've been brought up to be scheduled, to obey authorities, etc., look to authorities. This is where we get these ideas from. And I'm not saying that we rebel against the system, but we're actually rebelling in our own way, because we're deciding to recognize our real awareness to where we don't need authorities anymore. This is what's so cool about it. Real universes, no restrictions, no authorities. But you got to recognize that while you're still here. But you still deal with these funny things because you've got a body here. It's just like your car. You got to park it somewhere, right? And then let's say if you live in an apartment and they don't have enough parking spaces, well, you got to park it on the street, don't you? And if you forget to move it on those days that they do the street cleaning, you get a ticket, don't you? Yes. Well, they do here. Yes, and all these funny things. Or somebody steals it, or they kick in the door and you got a dent, etc. So, and that's like our bodies that we carry here. We got to deal with them. And it is hard. It is a hell of a struggle here. It really sucks is what it does. It really is. This is why people cry out. But in the long run, it is necessary. Also, the overall idea of the new presentation is just that, to present to others, to give them the possibility. This is where you're standing real with the all is, when you recognize it. It's more than just a cutesy idea or Mother Teresa being nice, okay? and that is reaching the individual's real awareness and how you creatively can do that. So it's not that a person's supposed to do something. You decide your life and your adventure. You decide that. That's the adventure part, you see? So you get the basic idea, and then you decide to, create something, whatever. So I've created all these things. The wonderful worldwide educators, universal surfers, the Nations United, and on, the new presentation, and many, many other things, the Vessel Project, etc., to give people ideas. And on the real side, these things are completed. But it takes agreement for them to come into the physical. So we'll go back to the struggling Africans, and everybody is struggling here. So to create something that gets agreement. So I've created the new presentation, and I have some agreement here. Those that have stepped up here and others, they're looking at it, they're starting to agree. It's not about what I've created, it's the reference that's the most important, and I use creation to reference what is truly real, but each individual is going to experience that for themselves, and they're going to decide if they want to step up and support. And again, in the beginning, your question was with the group thing. Some people don't like groups and that, and I've had that. It's like, well, I don't want to be a groupie. Well, it's not about being a groupie. It's about learning what's going on through the groups, then eventually being creative and realistic, not just, just being happy with the world and, I'll just love the world and everything will be okay. Well, guess what? It ain't working. It's not working at all. It looks like it works. And people in their personal relationships, yeah, you have that love affair. That's a personal thing. But when it comes to the overall of life, it's real survival, and this planet is not surviving. No way. It is in a huge demise, and we're trying to offset it to show people how to become more aware. It's through that, then through that process, as they become more aware, they start to be more creative and see that the old ways don't work and start to make better choices. It's very simple, but there's such a bigger picture than that you cannot even consider. But you got to go through the process. You got to face yourself. You got to do it. You got to take the risk every day, every moment. That's the best part. I like that. Seeing what you cannot see. That's the reality life is, because life is invisible. It becomes visible according to the five bodies. But the reality of it, the best part, is the silent and visible trueness it is, and that is everything. So again, you decide how to see it. You decide how to see and be and do what you do in creation. But yes, the real risk takers step up and do something, because, we're not liked in this world. We're not liked in this solar system. We're not liked in this galaxy or all of creation. Not at all, because the Dark Lords that have decided to be the conquerors and self-proclaimed gods, they don't want anybody that is not obedient to their will, and they're deciding whatever. So, yes, so the old question exists, gee, what do I do? What do I do with my life, or what am I supposed to do? That comes from the lash of the old gods telling you what to do. We don't do that. You do whatever you want. Figure it out. That's the fun part, is to figure it out and have fun with it. Yes. Again, as Kelsey and Kevin and whatever, and as you attend these things and you attend what they're doing, you see that. And, they're on their way to better recognizing this. They're on their adventure. They're doing something fun in reference to the real guides that support them and the isness itself. Yes. There you go, Charles.